Hello, this is Jessica Mckay. I'm an intuitive counselor and spiritual teacher at jessicamckay.com. Thank you so much for watching this video on numerologist.com. In today's video, I'm going to talk about how to strengthen your psychic ability, specifically your clairaudience, which is the ability to hear messages from spirit, get messages from your spirit guides and angels and even deceased loved ones. And the way that we do this is we use our inner ears to hear it. So as psychics, when we say that we're hearing messages, we're not actually hearing them with our physical ears. We're hearing them inside our minds. And we've learned to tell the difference between our own crazy thoughts and the messages that are coming from a higher place. So last week we talked about clairvoyance and how to strengthen your clairvoyant ability. And so if you missed that, go ahead and check that video out. So why would you want to strengthen your clairaudience or your ability to hear messages? Because maybe you want to get a message from someone that you lost, a deceased loved one. Maybe you want to hear from your spirit guides. And when we start opening ourselves up to spirit and to getting messages, it teaches us how to have confidence, how to trust ourselves and trust what we hear. Trust what we see, what we feel, and what we hear. That's so important for you to be able to trust yourself as you go through life, rather than second guessing yourself and wondering if you're on the right path or doing what feels right to you. So there are certain ways to strengthen your clairaudience. And by the way, you already use this ability. If you have ever heard a song playing in your head, if a song has ever gotten stuck in your mind for hours and it's driven you crazy, you were hearing a song using your inner ears. So if I said to you right now, what does a train whistle sound like? Or what does a baby crying sound like? You could probably hear those sounds very quickly in your mind, and then you would be able to describe them to me. So you already have this gift. You already have it. So it's just about practicing it and using it. So we'll do an exercise that we did last week. I'm going to put up a picture of a forest here, just to give you something to aim for. So in your mind, imagine that you're in this forest right now. Just imagine that you're standing there in this forest. You don't have to close your eyes if you don't want to. You can keep them open and look at this picture. What would it sound like if you were standing there? What would the wind or the breeze sound like going through the trees? What would the birds sound like? Maybe you could hear the sounds of squirrels running through the branches. Maybe there's water nearby and you could hear the sound of the water. Okay, great. So when you do that, you can always practice with an image, or you can close your eyes and imagine being in a place. Imagine hearing different sounds. What this will do is it'll just get you good at hearing in your mind consciously, doing it with intent, so that when your guides want to send you a message, you have strengthened this ability. You've practiced a little bit. You've used this skill. So here's the difference between messages sent by spirit and things that you think in your head. So the things you think in your head usually have a certain path or a trajectory. You think one thing and then it leads to something else, and then that reminds you about something else, and then it's kind of like you're stumbling over thoughts that just keep going. And one thing will remind you of something else. So there's a connection, there's a link there. But when a message comes from spirit. Say a loved one who's passed really wants to send you a message. They wait for a quiet moment, and it's hard because our minds are always blabbing, but they wait for a moment. That's why meditation is so great, because you practice quieting yourself down. They wait for a moment where you're not thinking about anything, or maybe you're just kind of in a trance as you do the dishes. They wait, and then bang, they send a word. They send an image. Sometimes that was a picture in your mind, but they'll send a word or a phrase, and you might be able to all of a sudden perceive that in your mind. So that's how it will come through. It'll come very quickly, and it won't be related to the stuff you were just thinking about. It'll come when it'll have nothing to do with anything you were just thinking about, usually. Another way that you can tell that it's a message coming from spirit guides or angels is that it'll be very loving. These messages will be loving and non-judgmental. If you hear anything in your mind that makes you feel bad or guilty, or if you hear something like, "That was really stupid, you should know better," that's not coming from a spirit guide or an angel. That's coming from most likely your inner judge. So those are two differences. The messages from spirit come very, very quickly, and they're usually not related to whatever you were thinking about. And they're also very loving, very loving. You can also get messages from guides when you've just asked a question. Like if you're walking, I do a lot of walking, and when I'm walking and I have a question that comes in my mind, I might look down and see a sign from a spirit guide, or I might hear a word later, or just get a little snippet, a phrase. It's very quick. We hear words and phrases more than we hear long rambling sentences, because our guides are vibrating on such a different level than we are. That also goes for our deceased loved ones. They're vibrating on another frequency. So their thoughts tend to be very fast. So we might only be able to pick up a word or a phrase here and there. So I hope that this video was helpful to you. Please practice and let me know how it goes. Leave me a comment here. Feel free to share this video with anyone who's interested in strengthening their psychic ability. And I'll see you next week.